yesterday I was almost falling, so how are you guys doing? Why are you so damn serious, sir? You come see, come, sir? Why? But you're feeling good? All right, so maybe before I get it up and going, allow me to also bring Nampumelelo, Moshosho, and Dalila just for some quick good morning remarks. A quick recap in terms of what happened yesterday. So, as they come, they're the greatest ladies on this particular podium. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to bring unto you your two MCs from yesterday, Dalila Yara from Burkina Faso and Nampumelelo Moshosho from South Africa. So today again, in a way, is a pretty much easy but an intense day. Let me pick it up from them. Moshosho, what stood up from you from yesterday? Then probably from a Dalila perspective is, you are at the marketplace today, what should they expect? Then I will get by with how we go into the agenda of the day.
Yesterday was fantastic. I think I enjoyed the energy and connecting. So I hope today we can bring it again. I know that some of us are still filling in, but then let's keep the momentum going. And it just ensuring that we carry through the energy today.
Yeah, but I see the gentleman is already telling us he's feeling comsy, comsa. Are you feeling comsy, comsa, Dalila? Go ahead.
I think we are all feeling comsy, comsa, but we are really happy to be there. And just a reminder, we have to connect people, connect with other people, other countries. Don't stay with the same people from your country. We have to connect here. And today we will have the marketplace. You all know that we are waiting for the marketplace. There will be 50 alumni that will be exhibiting their project, their company. So we are waiting for you.
All right, so let me just contribute onto what Dalila said. I don't know if all of us will have another unique chance such as this, whereby you'll be interacting with some of the alumni products as well as alumni companies at the marketplace. So the marketplace is an exhibition desk that has been created to accommodate 50 alumni businesses. And this is a marketplace that's going to happen immediately after lunch. So if you're looking at just getting to explore what Kevin's Randiek does from a point of either business or work, I'll be on table number 30, and on that table number 30, I'll be pulling Nampumelelo Moshosho. So we're already pushing a collaboration agenda here. So Lelo is going to be on that desk. Which desk are you going to be for anyone who will be looking forward to seeing you at the marketplace?
Desk 4.
Desk 4.
Desk 4, yes.
So if you're trying to fit in an agenda on your day today, please start booking that desk 4 at the marketplace is a desk for you to get onto, and desk 30 at the marketplace is a desk whereby you're going to get me and Lelo. Probably before we go into the flesh start of our day, a quick recap in terms of what our hashtag is, Dalila.
Our hashtag is YALI Expo 2024, YALI Expo 2024. Don't forget to put it on your social medias.
Please, yeah, YALI Expo 2024. And maybe as we also get into the day, I'll request the AV, I know maybe would not inform you this. Please share to us also what the password is for anyone who will want to maybe just interact and interlude with it. So another key thing, Moshosho, we need to say a big thank you to the partners who have actually made this a great show. From Arizona, take it up from Dow.
Google,
Yeah.
Informa, HP, Ethiopia, Kenya Airways, South African Airways, and Bid Capital Partners. So those are our sponsors, and then obviously the USA ID. And then one thing I also wanted to add about the hashtag, I know I was the hashtag girl yesterday, so please do hashtag. It was so nice yesterday evening seeing everyone's statuses of the day, the energy and sharing, but then it wasn't shared on socials. So please do make sure that you're sharing, following the YALI Expo page on LinkedIn, Facebook, making sure you are tagging your RLCs and your alumni chapters, and let's share with the alums who are not here. So please make sure you are sharing on socials.
And whether there are also great, phenomenal interviews happening at the box. I don't know if any of us was scheduled and he or she never undertook his or her interview at the box. The box is a booth right there whereby, as in this podcasting content that's being championed by our team lead from a com side called Sarah Wiwa. Delila, maybe a quick one in terms of what the translation bits are and why they shouldn't go away with the headsets.
Oh yes, so we have translation service, both English, French and Portuguese. Donc nous avons le service de traduction en français, en anglais, en portugais. Vous pouvez prendre les microphones et aussi vous adresser au bureau à la registration pour avoir plus d'informations, pour avoir les casques pour la traduction.
All right, so thank you. With those great introductory remarks, I will let the great ladies probably just undertake off stage. You'll keep on interacting with them as the day gets by. Allow me to go on to the first agenda of the day, and the first agenda of the day is to bring into you the first speaker, whom we are going to have a conversation on. It's more of a conversation. She goes by the name Rakia Abdullahi Isabube. Rakia is a 2022-2024 YALI CRL Dakar Alumni Association President, and she actually became a Mandela Washington Fellow this year with the recent training in the United States. And we are aware of the fact that there are RLCs, there are MWF. The common agenda amongst the two of them is capacity building, impactful training, and as well as probably after that, we are meant to go back to our homes and probably just figure out with the knowledge and training we've encountered, how do we put it up into practice? And it's in that context that this session starts the day up for us. And can we just give us some round of applause for her? She feels so energetic to get this started. Rakia, all the way from Nigeria. That's not enough. All right, thank you, Rakia, and good morning. Just a mic. Yeah, it is.
Good morning.
To
Hi,
the
everyone.
audience, good morning. All right, so primarily it's interesting for us to use this as a start of our day, and a quick introduction by yourself to the audience on
Right.
who you are and what actually makes you be on that chair.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Hi, everyone. I hope you're all good. I know that we are all tired. So thank you, everyone, for being here. I am Rakia Abdullahi Isabube. I co-founded a nonprofit organization in 2019, which is working with orphans and people with disabilities back in my country. I come from Niger, a French country in West Africa. I'm a 2021 YALI RLC Dakar alumni, and I became the president in 2022 up to 2024 August. And I'm a 2024 Mandela Washington Fellow. So yeah.
All right, so like let me start it on the latter. There's probably somebody within the audience who's already experienced RLC, and not that he or she is not qualified, she is still qualified to do MWF, but has held back. What really pushed you to feel like you still wanted to go to the States for MWF?
Okay, I did not mention that I am an online RLC Dakar alumni, so I did the session online in business and entrepreneurship. And you know, sometimes with some fellows, when you talk, they're like, you're not really an alumni, you've never been in Dakar, you don't know how it is to feel like an alumni. We have a lot of activities that we did on site and everything. So I was like, I applied online, and you know, you can just only apply one time. So it wasn't possible for me to apply again for the hybrid session. And then I heard about the Mandela Washington Fellowship, and I heard that it was, 100% in English, and I was trying to improve my English. So I was like, okay, this is maybe my opportunity. I should apply to the Mandela Washington Fellowship. I will be able to go there, to be on stage, to meet fellow, and then I will be able to improve my English. So basically, this is why I applied for the Mandela Washington Fellowship.
Okay, let me take an interesting one that you've said. You were actually encouraged by your desire to improve your English.
Yeah.
So, how are you speaking right now, and how different were you speaking last year, November?
I am more fluent. I'm more comfortable speaking in English. I always loved English, but you know, I was afraid talking in front of people because I was afraid of people mocking at me like, your English is not good, you know. So when I went there, it was 6 weeks, full English. I met people from Anglophone countries. They don't understand French. So it was mandatory for me to speak only English. So I improved, and I don't know how, but I'm here speaking today.
Because of that. Okay, so let's go a little bit back.
Thank you.
All right. Some claps again because she has more English.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. So when it comes to the confidence, how is that already contributing to the organization you created?
Oh, yeah. All right. When I created the organization with my friends in 2019, I did not have much experience in leading organization. So when I applied to the YALI Dakar, through the training, I told you I was on business over there, but I co-founded a nonprofit organization, and someone told me that my profile is civic. Why am I in business? I wanted at that time to create a firm linked to the organization in environment field. So I wanted to have some skills that I didn't have basically on business affair and like how to make a business plan, how to write a grant, you know. So those are the skills that I gained through the training at YALI Dakar. So going to the Mandela Washington Fellowship increases that because I had some skills. I started the organization making some trainings, giving back to people. And then when I went there, I discovered some other parts like building confidence because like I said, we were 25, actually. We were 25 from 21 countries. And then I didn't know anyone from there. And when we were there, it was like, I need to connect with those people because they are young leaders back in their countries. They are facing a lot of challenges. Maybe some of the challenges are the same. So I need to connect with them. So I had to get out of my comfort zone. And that helped me a lot.
All right, so getting off the comfort zone.
Yeah.
So are you really sure that you're off your comfort zone? Are you feeling content? No more extra fellowships?
Why not?
Why are you pausing? It's for them to hear.
Yeah.
Off comfort zone. All right, so I picked up confidence, I picked up key learning, I picked up motivation. Let's go to the aspect of how the avenue makes us feel safe. For a few people, like for me, on sharing up a bit of how I got into the RLC, I always tell people that I got into the RLC the previous evening, and I was getting in there, and I was working as a taxi driver that previous night. And all I remember is when I got into the RLC, nobody ever sized me up by virtue of whom I was. So let's now go on to your side in terms of how it turned out to be a safe space for you seeing you belong and for you seeing as something that you're able to drive your vision. So with your training, is your vision already shaped? Do you have cards aligned that you want to pursue? And now for anyone who could be holding back into getting into the program, is there any 2-3 words that you could urge him or her to just ensure that I need to do this thing if I'm still within the age bracket?
Yeah, sure. So basically, when I applied, I wasn't really confident because I heard about the YALI program through another fellow. And he was a big brother of mine in the same neighborhood, and he was talking about it. And he had the opportunity to go on site, and he was like, you know, you need to apply. It's going to help you with your organization and everything. So when I applied to the online session because of work, because of studies. It was kind of difficult for me to go. So I said that maybe it was better for me to do the online application. And when I received an email saying that I got selected, I didn't realize where it was. Like, okay, I'm selected for a YALI program. Okay, but when we started, when the journey started, I met people like online, and we were connecting, we were talking, and I was like, okay, this is very serious. And what came to my mind is, how am I going to use all the tools, all the skills I will gain with the fellowship and implement into my organization? We are over 100 persons in this association. So as the lead of the organization, how am I going to use the skills that I'm going to gain? What is the value? How am I going to impact my society? Because it's about that again. It's about empowering people. It's about giving back and impact those people in the neighborhood and in the country. So I realized that it was very, very important, and I started to talk about it. And actually, even today, people ask me if YALI pays me. I'm always talking about YALI. Everywhere I go, I'm talking about YALI. Not only because I was the president, but because I value the program. So people would, are you being paid by YALI or something? Yes, I'm being paid by YALI because I gained a lot through being an alumna of the YALI Dakar, being an alumna Mandela Washington Fellow. So yeah, YALI is paying me, sort of.
All right. Yali's paying her. So I don't know, maybe. Sorry, just go ahead.
No, no, no.
All right, so I want to just open it up to some 2 or 3 questions. Anyone who feels like there's a question they want to throw across for her to answer. I see a hand is right there. Dalila, you could help me with the mic onto her. This first table here. Any other one so that we can cue them in? Then I see a hand at that particular side. All right, great, cool.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Je comprends anglais, mais je préfère aller en français.
Yeah,
Je ne
vas-y.
parle qu'anglais depuis que je suis là. Je suis Fatmata Sissé, alumni du CRL YALI Dakar aussi, en Civic Leadership. Alors, ce que je voudrais savoir, vu que tu as fait les 2 programmes, c'est quelle est la différence en fait que tu as senti entre le CRL, ce que tu as appris au CRL et ce que tu as appris au Mandela Washington Fellowship. Quelle a été la grande différence entre les 2 programmes? C'est ce que je voudrais savoir. Merci.
Okay, so
Thank you. So let's collect them. I saw the gentleman there. Okay. All right, I see 2 hands. Maybe let's collect them, then answer them all together. So, yeah. Thank you.
In French. Huh? Okay. Rakia, my name is Quadio. I'm from Dakar. Rakia, est-ce que tu voudrais partager ton expérience en termes de président de l'association à l'occasion du YALI Alumni Summit que vous avez organisé en 2022? Merci.
All right, so Sean, allow me to pick those 2 because of time, so for us to probably just plug it in and wrap it up. So, Raki, those 2, then we'll do a detailed overview, then just probably close it up. So go ahead. Yeah.
all right, so should I answer in French?
Yeah, sure, sure.
Ok. Bonjour ma sœur, j'espère que tu vas bien. Donc, pour parler de la différence, en fait, comme je l'ai dit au départ, je suis alumni en ligne du CRL Dakar. Donc, la différence, c'était que déjà, pour le YALI Mandela, il faut forcément aller aux États-Unis. Donc, j'ai eu la possibilité d'être en interconnexion directe avec les fellows. Maintenant, en termes d'autres différences, c'est par exemple la langue, parce que pour le YALI Dakar, c'est le français, et pour le Mandela, c'est 100% en anglais. Et peut-être une autre différence, c'est concernant le réseautage, parce que étant en ligne, on n'a pas l'opportunité d'aller à la rencontre de personnes qui sont sur le site, parce que j'ai eu des échos sur le fait que les alumni partaient sur le site pour le réseautage, rendaient visite, tout ça. Et j'ai eu l'opportunité de faire ça quand j'étais aux États-Unis pour le Mandela Fellowship. J'ai eu par exemple l'opportunité de rencontrer le gouverneur de Maryland et en fait, on a dansé avec lui, on ne savait pas que c'était le gouverneur. C'était le 4 juillet, on était sur la route et il y avait la parade. Et il y avait un homme qui est venu vers nous, qui a commencé à danser, on a dansé avec lui. Et le lendemain, on voit un réel sur Instagram disant qu'il y a des jeunes qui ont dansé avec le gouverneur. Et je me suis vue dans la vidéo en train de danser. Donc, c'était une belle expérience. On a rencontré le maire, on a rencontré beaucoup de personnalités. Et c'était bien vraiment parce que j'avais cette opportunité, parce que j'étais on-site, parce que j'étais en présentiel. Donc, je vais dire que c'est les mêmes différences. Sinon, en termes de formation, il n'y a pas vraiment de différence. C'est la même chose, le contenu est le même. Voilà.
All right. I'm glad they're clapping. Is the
All right, so he's talking about the YALI Alumni Summit that we held in Niger in 2023 under my leadership. So, pour le sommet des alumni, c'était un sommet qui s'est déroulé, qui s'est tenu en mars 2023. Et c'est un sommet qui a réuni 250 personnes venues de 13 pays, j'allais dire countries, venues de 13 pays. Et c'était un sommet qui a demandé beaucoup de préparation, des mois. C'est une instance que j'avais trouvée lorsque j'ai pris le lead de l'association. Il y avait eu déjà des tentatives d'organiser le sommet pour X ou Y raison, dont le Covid. Ça n'a pas été possible de l'organiser. Donc c'était l'un de mes plus gros défis en tant que présidente d'organiser ce sommet-là. Donc j'ai eu l'accompagnement du centre de Dakar, j'ai eu l'accompagnement de l'USAID, j'ai eu l'accompagnement de l'ancien président Touré que j'ai succédé et une excellente et dynamique team qui m'a assistée pour organiser ce sommet. Donc c'est un sommet qui s'est vraiment bien passé. On a eu beaucoup de personnalités à la cérémonie d'ouverture. On avait 5 ministres d'État qui étaient là. On a eu la représentante, la chef de mission de l'USAID, Niamey, qui était là. I was about to say it in English actually. Donc voilà, c'est vraiment un sommet qui s'est très bien passé et voilà ce que je peux dire par rapport au sommet. C'est bon, Narcisse?
Great. I love those two particular questions. I think it has opened it up in a much more deeper way. We are about to conclude this particular startup for the day. So, Raki, 2 last ones. When it comes to any difference that stands out on RLC, any difference that turns out on the MWF, then one last one is, had you been to the States before?
Oh yeah, so actually the question that she asked you was about the difference between the RLCs and the Mandela Washington Fellowship. So I was saying that there's no a big difference according to the training, but as an RLC I was online and I went into the US because for the Mandela Washington Fellowship it was mandatory to be on site. So this is one of the differences for me. And second, I was able to connect with people and the networking was more easy when I was to the US because I was on site, I was the opportunity to meet people, and I was sharing something with her, like I had the opportunity to dance with the governor of Maryland. I didn't know it was the governor. It was of the 4th of July. We were on the road, the parade was going, and then a man came to us and we were dancing, like really, really dancing. And then the next day I saw a reel on Instagram saying that we were dancing with the governor of Maryland. I was like, okay.
So you'll be dancing for others to get off, right? All right, then, another one probably as we get to wrap this up. Any parting shot, any last call to action, just to encourage anyone that, hey, this is your voice, this is a chance for you to utilize. If you haven't, please ensure you do. Any just parting shot as we come to a conclusion on this?
Okay, so if you guys want to apply, you should because it's a one lifetime experience. I went to the US before, but I was 9 years old. I didn't enjoy. So going to the US made me open my eyes on a lot of things, the differences between America and African countries. And coming from a French country in West Africa, it was a challenge for me too because of the barrier of the language and everything, but I made it. So if you would like to apply, I encourage you to do so, but don't think that maybe the Mandela Washington Fellowship is better than the YALI RLC. It is the same, and as I said, only difference was for me was because I wasn't online, I didn't have some opportunities that I gained through the Mandela Washington Fellowship, so yeah.
Thank you very
That's
much, Rocky. That was
you.
just a great one to tease up ourselves up for the day as we get to wrap it up. Cultural opening, English as a driver, on site, or rather virtual to on site as key aspects that stand out for Rocky. You want to interact with her? I know I've connected with Rakia on LinkedIn. So hey, just check out on that and keep following her. And remember too, for us to keep on connecting, there is a swap card platform. So get to see who is there. My name is Kevin Strondek. It's been an absolute pleasure doing this. We got to transition on to what's coming in next. And what's coming in next, let's take a look at how this year's summit at MWF was. And let's have the video playing.
The Young African Leaders Initiative, commonly known as YALI, is the US government's signature effort to invest in the next generation of African leaders. An important part of the YALI family is the Mandela Washington Fellowship, which celebrated 10 years in 2024. Among the 700 fellows in attendance, 150 graduates were there from the 4 USAID regional leadership centers, known as RLCs. USAID's Deputy Administrator, Isabel Coleman, participated in a fireside chat with the new YALI alumni about youth unemployment, encouraging civic participation, and ensuring that all youth have the chance to reach their full potential.
Everywhere I go, I'm just astounded, amazed at the entrepreneurship and the energy and the idealism and the can-do amazing spirit of all of these YALI graduates. So I hope that you will continue to remember the passion that brought you here and infuse it in all of the work that you're doing, no matter where that leads you over the course of your lifetime.
The Bureau for Africa's Assistant Administrator, Dr. Monde Muyangwa, participated in a panel discussion on US-Africa policy with representatives from the State Department and Prosper Africa.
The US government firmly believes that Africa's greatest asset is its people, and especially its youth. You are the future of that continent. And so what we hope you are seeing is this investment that the US government is making into YALI, into Africa's future, because we believe that you are the transformative power of the continent.
In addition, the West Africa Dakar YALI Regional Coordinator, Malik Diop, gave a presentation on the RLC leadership training courses and activities with Rakia Abdoulaye Issa Boubé, a YALI Mandela Washington Fellow and RLC alum from Niger. The event offers YALI alumni an opportunity to not only celebrate their achievements, but to also network and help grow their projects, innovations, and businesses. Several of the dual RLC and Mandela Washington Fellows said that the YALI training has helped them gain confidence. In 2025, the YALI Regional Leadership Centers will be celebrating their 10-year anniversary and working to continue providing young African leaders with the skills to make a difference in their communities, their countries, and the continent.
Thank you for... All right, so thank you for that. Coming in next, it's my honor to keep up the energy for the day and to keep you anticipating. So this great gentleman is going to light it up for us. He's been smiling backstage. I've not checked his hand yet, but he looks exciting, right? Are you guessing? Have you seen the program to see who it is? Are we aware of who's coming in next? Do I have your attention? Okay. Then if I don't, let me just take it away. So, Joseph Asunka has served as CEO of Afrobarometer since 2021. He was previously program officer in the Global Development and Population Program at William and Flora Hewlett Foundation and was lecturer in political science at the University of California, Los Angeles, where he taught courses on African politics, political economy of development, research methods, and data analysis. As a program officer at the Ghana Center for Democratic Development, a co-partner of Afrobarometer, and his PhD studies at UCLA, Joseph's research interests includes distributive politics, elections and electoral processes, and migration. Born in Ghana, Joseph holds a PhD in political science from UCLA. With that energy, with that discretion, could we give him some power claps as he gets on stage for his presentation? Thank you. Thank you, Joseph.
For the opportunity to, right now it's working. Thank you so much for the introductions. So as rightly pointed out, my name is Joseph Asunka. I'm the CEO of Afrobarometer. It's really great to be with you all today. So taking a break from all the wonderful conversations you people have had, what I'm going to share today with you is all about the Afrobarometer. And some of you may have already known about us, others maybe not. So what I'm going to do is to share with you who we are, what we do, and a little bit of some of the information we have in terms of what African youth are thinking. That is exactly you people, what your fellows are thinking across about 40 countries where Afrobarometer has been conducting our surveys. All right, to start off with, I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what Afrobarometer is. So Afrobarometer is a Pan-African survey research network. We operate in about 42 countries across the continent, and we use a methodology that allows us to reach as many people as possible on the continent to ensure that we get a representative reflection of what people's views are, what their thoughts are, especially when it comes to governance, social issues, the economy, and the like. Okay. The goal of Afrobarometer is mainly to give African citizens a voice in policy making, because when Africa became increasingly democratic in the late 1980s through the 1990s, the question was, if Africa is becoming democratic, how do we make sure that citizen voice is part of the process? So that citizens are not only relegated to elections and then they go back to wait till the next time they go to elections. So we wanted to make sure that the voices are in between the elections, that their voices are heard. Right. We have done 9 rounds of surveys. We've started the 10th round of the survey, which is currently ongoing, and we are hoping to be able to cover up to 42 countries. And I'm happy to talk more about the methodology as we go along. In terms of where we cover, this is how the map looks like. So all the countries that are filled in are countries that we have touched before. That is, we've conducted at least one study in those countries. And to make sure that we are reflective of what happens in the country, in every country, we have a national partner that conducts the surveys, does the analysis, and presents the results to both governments and policymakers in the country. We also engage with young people like yourselves in university campuses to make sure that they have the data to be able to use for whatever they want, whether it's dissertations or writing a paper to publish in peer-reviewed journals. So that's who we are. What I want to present to you today, and I just to say that this is a small sample of the data that we have in our database, but just to give you a snippet of what African young people are telling us, young people between the ages of 18 and 35. But of course, I'll put that in the context of other generations and how their differences exist. So starting off with educational levels. This does not come as a surprise. Younger people on the continent have relatively more education than the older generations. So if you look at this chart, of course, we do have, for people who have had post-secondary or secondary education, you'll see that younger people are relatively more educated than the older generations. And that should make sense. But the second piece of it is we often look at employment on the continent. And when we go out to conduct these studies, the studies are done with nationally representative samples. That means that the views we get from these respondents is reflective of the country as a whole. And for many of you who do, some of you who do statistics, you will understand that when you talk about a nationally representative sample, somebody would often say sampling is like either cooking food or making your tea. Once you have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and you take a spoonful of it and taste, it can tell you whether or not you have enough sugar in your tea or coffee. You don't have to drink the entire cup to know that you have enough sugar in your cup. Or you don't have to eat the whole pot of soup to know that the salt is enough. And that is how the sampling process works. If you conduct your random sampling process in a country as effectively as Afrobarometer does, you will get a general sense of what is happening in the country. And this data is based on that. So for unemployment, this is the picture we get. We see that the darker red bars at the bottom there shows the proportion of people in each age group that is looking for a job. And here you can see that younger people have higher rates of unemployment than the older generation, that about 40% of young Africans are out there looking for a job at the moment. And this study was conducted in 39 countries across the continent 2 years ago. All right, how does unemployment look like across the countries that we have studied? You can see from the chart here that it varies. In countries like the Seychelles, unemployment is almost non-existent. But you go to places like Angola and other countries, unemployment is quite high. And I know anytime we project a picture like this, everybody is trying to find out where your country is. Not to worry about it, you can find this data on our website, but even more encouraging, you can do this analysis yourself on our website. We have something on our website called the Online Data Analysis Tool. You can go into it, pick your country, pick an issue, and then you can find out how people are thinking about that particular issue. But as I said, this is how unemployment varies across the continent the last time we conducted this survey. And then we often ask people, what are the major policy issues that you want your government to address? Okay, policy priorities of on the continent. And not surprising, of course, unemployment is always the number one issue for most people on the continent, regardless of the generation. But you will see here that young people are more likely to identify unemployment as the greatest issue or the highest priority that they want their governments to address. And this issue keeps coming up. In every country we survey, unemployment has consistently been the number one policy issue that citizens want their governments to address. What we have seen lately is that there are other issues that are beginning to emerge that used not to be the case in the past. So we've seen issues about management of the economy come up as one of the concerns, but also insecurity, especially insecurity around the Sahel, as well as parts of West Africa, where we have seen in some countries concerns about security has actually overtaken unemployment. People are more concerned about their security now than it used to be 10 years ago. All right, so for the countries that we've asked, what is the most important issue your government should address? This is the country variation in terms of where people identify unemployment as the most important issue. And as I said, if I had projected issues about security, you would have seen the similar variations, but the countries will shift. So countries in the Sahelian region, crime and insecurity is more of a priority, but overall across the continent, unemployment is the biggest issue. All right, and then one of the things we often ask citizens is, how do you rate your government's performance in terms of the delivery of certain basic services? And for this presentation, I just touched on only 3 of them. I'm looking at healthcare, general management of the economy, and creating jobs. Overall, you can see that job creation has always been an issue overall, that young people on the continent are very critical of their government's inability to deliver on the job side. And it has been low since 2014, and it's actually declining over time. You can see from here, right from 27% in 2014, is down to about 19% of the population of young people who think their government is doing a good job. Continues to drop. And across all public services that we have covered, you see that people's rating of the performance of their governments have actually dropped over time. And this is not just a facade of anything. For those of you who are old enough to remember the Africa Rising narrative, between 2010 and 2015, it was the years of boom. It looked like Africa had got it right, and we are now at the precipice of making it. But since then, things have gone south, and the data actually shows that over time, when poverty was, maybe at the Africa Rising narrative era, poverty was declining. As at this stage, if we look at the trends over time, poverty has started to increase on the continent. And so there is something about this data that people are critical about their government's performance in the delivery of these services. All right, in terms of democratic governance, so Afrobarometer, in addition to looking at these socio-economic issues, we often also look at governance on the continent and how people think about democracy and democratic governance. And indeed, that has been the main reason why Afrobarometer exists, to make sure that people's voices are heard in governance issues. Right. So we ask people about their support for democracy or preference for democracy compared to other issues. So first of all, we would ask, there are different ways of governing a country. Will you prefer democracy or other alternatives? And here you can see that for one-party rule and one-man rule, there is resounding rejection of those across the continent and across all generations. All generations, all countries, there is a resounding rejection of one-man rule, and there's a resounding rejection of one-party rule. The same way we see majority of Africans reject military rule. It's more than 60%. It's not as strong as one-party and one-man rule, but it's still a majority view that people do not want military rule. And in terms of preference for democracy, we can see here that, of course, the preference for democracy is also high at 60 and above % across all generations. The only difference you see here is young people are relatively less critical of military rule, and they are relatively less supportive of democracy. But that is not to say they don't. It's still a majority that support. It's just that when you compare them to the older generations, there is a little bit of gap between young people's views as well as compared to the older generations. All right. And one of the key questions we often ask is, how satisfied are you with the way democracy works in your country? And I hope that we had a way of asking young people seated here today to just tell me how satisfied are you with the way democracy works in your country. But on average, across the continent, we have about 60% of young people saying that they are not really satisfied with the way democracy works in their countries. And this, of course, it cuts across all generations. It's just that young people are more likely to tell us that they are not satisfied with the way democracy works. And this data does play out in the real world. Recently, you all know that Botswana had an election. Mauritius had their elections as well this week. What our data showed was, over the 10-year period, if you look at satisfaction with democracy in both countries, it actually dropped by 40 percentage points between 2014 and today. And we could actually tell that the ruling parties in those countries were in trouble because the data actually pointed to the fact that this was likely to happen. And I wasn't surprised by yesterday's outcome in Mauritius, neither was I surprised by what happened in Botswana. Of course, South Africa, we had the same prediction. We knew that that was going to happen. And so the Afrobarometer data is not just it's both for policymakers to think about what citizens are saying and feeling, but also to alert to political leaders to what is happening in the country and what they can do, or at least to address people's needs and priorities. And I also think it comes down to young people like yourselves. I know you people work in different areas. You are leaders in your own spaces. But as you lead, as you think about ways to improve people's lives, it's always better to reflect and try to ask yourself, what do people think and what do they prioritize? I think just trying to think about that can be useful, because if you assume that this is what people are thinking or wanting, you can actually misfire, because sometimes the priority can change. And so thinking about ways that what you do is aligned with what people need, don't assume that what you are doing is what they need. You've got to be able to at least reflect with them. So one space will be to ask them, or you can go into the Afrobarometer database. The data is available for free, and just look at your country and then check, what are the priorities of citizens in my country? And I think it does give you signals as to what to look for when you are trying to intervene in any sector of your work. All right, now we come to issues about trust. And we know that democratic governance thrives in places where people trust the institutions of governance. And so this has become a core question for Afrobarometer, where we ask it year after year to see how do people engage with our institutions and do they trust those institutions. So across the continent, the only story I want to tell you here is that the green bars, which represents young people are relatively less trusting of the institutions of governance, okay? And I believe many of you can tell me the reasons why you don't really trust some of your institutions. I look forward to having some further engagements on that. But then when it comes to issues of corruption, the same way young people are very critical of their governments, they are more likely to see corruption across all the institutions of governments than the older generations. And so here is the case. We have young people who are less trusting of institutions and tend to see them as more corrupt. And I think this really creates a sense of in what ways can institutions, governance institutions on the continent restore some kind of trust and hope in young people like yourselves? And I'm going to come to that briefly. But then when it comes to issues about governance, I did tell you about the fact that majority of Africans support democracy. They do not want military rule, neither one-man rule nor one-party rule. The last time we conducted this survey, we asked people, if your elected leaders abuse power, should the military intervene? And of course, young people like yourself who may not have lived through military dictatorships in the past, there is some nostalgia. So you can see that young people in these bars, the yellow bars at the top, are relatively more likely to tell us that, yes, the military should come in if their elected leaders abuse power. And you will understand why this is the case, because often you would see the military as a disciplined institution, and if you see corruption in your government, it does sound like the military could do a better job, and we're not surprised that young people feel that way, that when their elected leaders abuse power, the military should step in. Okay. So I'm going to conclude with all of this, young people less trusting of their government institutions, perceiving them as corrupt, and some who are slightly more likely to think the military should intervene if their elected leaders abuse power. How much do they engage with these institutions and politics and governance in their own countries? So when it comes to political participation, we look at different sectors of political participation, whether voting in elections, attending community meetings, feeling close to a political party, and the like. And you can see that all across these actions, younger people are less likely than the older generations to be more engaged in politics and political parties. So whether you voted in the last election, the rates of voting among young people is much lower compared to the older generations. Same way when it comes to feeling close to a political party, young people are less likely to feel close to a political party than older generations. And of course, this is one of the critical areas that I do hope that young people would, two ways. Young people would think of ways to engage more with political parties, because these are the vehicles of governance. Without political parties, or at least for now, these are the instruments or tools through which we can engage and influence governance. But we've seen that young people are really not keenly interested in engaging and being part of political parties. The question is why? it's possible that the way political parties are organized is not attractive to young people. It's not that young people don't engage. Of course, young people engage very robustly in different spaces. But it doesn't look like political parties are the space for them to engage as effectively as they would like to. But the unfortunate thing is those are the vehicles through which we can actually influence governance. So it does seem like a paradox here where influencing government and being part of the governance institutions, political parties are the vehicles, but the young people are not that engaged in those spaces. And this has been the situation over time. As I told you, because Afrobarometer, we ask these questions the same way over time, you can actually track trends. So in addition to comparing your country, say Zimbabwe to Senegal, you can also look at your own country over time and see how things have been like over time. And here, what I want to point out, of course, voting, which is the blue line at the top, that one, at least young people have stayed relatively stable in terms of their participation in elections in the past 10 years. Roughly 60% participate in elections. But the critical one I want to highlight here is the yellow line that has dropped significantly from a majority in terms of being identified with a political party down to a minority view, which is just about 40%, right? And so it looks like over time, young people are more moving away from political parties than they are engaging with political parties. And there are many reasons for this. Of course, as many of you would know, the gatekeeping of political parties may not make it that attractive to young people because once you get in, you have to wait your turn. Maybe you have to wait till you are past 50 years or 60 years to be able to get in front. And that can be discouraging. And of course, young people engaging in other spaces does give you an escape. So instead of being part of the political party system, you might find an escape somewhere. But I do think, and especially for young leaders like yourselves who are going to get into bigger leadership positions and into governance, there must be a way to think how you would influence political parties in your countries to make room for young people. Because if they don't give you a seat on the table, you've got to find a way to get in there. Otherwise, you would continue to be sidelined. And I think it is time to think about ways that young people can re-engage and be part of the democratic process in a more active and systematic way. We can protest from the sidelines. As you can see at the bottom there, young people are rather more likely to participate in protests than the older generations. But all the other political engagements, as I showed you earlier on, we don't really have that much of a participation. So here I wanted to point out the engagements with political parties. Okay. And then the other one we ask people is whether or not you've contacted your leaders at any time. Right. So contacting different leaders, traditional leaders, and the like up to your members of parliament and political parties. You can see here that young people's engagement with leaders is not that great. Of course, all across, it looks like traditional leaders and religious leaders are the most contacted leaders in different communities. When it comes to the elected leaders or political parties, contact is quite low, and young people always tend to lag behind older generations. All right. So as I said, I thought I would give you just a small snippet of what the data shows, what you can do with this, but I'll encourage you all, if you want to know what citizens in your own country are thinking about any issue, whether or not how they perceive governments to be corrupt or not, or how they evaluate the government performance in terms of delivering public health, any question that you are interested in, we cover a whole range of issues from economic, political, and social issues. We have the data all available online for free, dating back to 1999 to date. And so you can go in there. If you have the statistical skill, you can actually download the data and do your own analysis. But if not, we have provided the data analysis tool online. You don't have to have any statistics background at all. You can still create any chart you want, whether it's a bar chart or even a heat map. You can generate the map of Africa on a particular issue, say corruption. And you can see how corruption varies across all the countries that are covered in that survey. So I invite you all to engage with the Afrobarometer data. It might give you some insights. And as we always say, in policy making, data or evidence is key. If you have data and evidence to support your issue, you can always make a headway and people will listen to you. And I hope that you will all continue to engage with Afrobarometer data, but other sources of data that will give you the evidence to pursue any policy or any endeavor that you embark on in your own activities. So I would like to bring it to a close here. Thank you all for your attention, and I am happy to respond to any questions that you may have. Thank you all so much.
Let's give some hearty claps again as he gets off. Thank you for that, Dr. Asunka. We now want to turn the spotlight to one of our alumni who will really have loved to be here, but for reasons beyond us, alumni Benedict is not here. So probably let's just have the video clip for Benedict coming up to just demonstrate some of alumni impact stories from an angle of a personal story.
My name is Nia Itongira Bernadetta. I'm from Burundi and I'm 31 years old and female amputee. And I attended YALI program called 35. I'm a leader back in my country and my community. I'm working with Association of Women and Girls with Disabilities, where we teach them about entrepreneurship and leadership at the same time. And in leadership, we teach them how to overcome the societal barriers to become confident and gain self-esteem. We train them through sport, where we gather them together to play different sports. I'm a football player, and I'm a volleyball player, and I'm also a swimmer. So through the activities that I do, I also impact other leaders and other women with disabilities in my community to believe in themselves, because disability is not an ability. Thank you.
Thank you for that clip, the AV team. I'll hold it a bit to just ensure the stage is set up for this great session that's coming in next. That's going to be focused on the regional leadership centers. Now, allow me to bring to you the lead who is going to take charge of this particular session. A quick introduction in terms of who she is. Dr. Wilson Young is a native Washingtonian who has been a Foreign Service Officer with USAID for 16 years. Prior to arriving in Pretoria, Dr. Wilson served as Acting Director of Human Capital Talent Development Staff Care Center. Her commitment to ensuring that the workforce received counseling, wellness, work-life, and organizational resilience support, as has been highlighted by OPM, as staff care ranked #1 as the United States Government Employee Assistance Program for 4 years straight. At some point, she's been a senior gender advisor of USAID Afghanistan Gender Unit and a co-chair of U.S. Embassy Afghanistan Gender Council. Ladies and gentlemen, some round of applause to Dr. Wilson Young as she gets onto stage to lead us through this particular session. Dr. Young, you're welcome. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.
How are we this morning? I can't hear you. Yes, let's go. So I want to thank you, Kevins, for the introduction. I know it's morning still, But we are going to ignite this room with some energy.
I just remember at some point I was on my
Are we going to do that?
responding to your email.
Yes.
Then somebody called
I've never
me, then I
been to a
paused.
YALI event
I am sorry.
where we didn't have so much innovative energy in the room.
Thank you.
So I want to say hello to everyone and welcome you back to another exciting day to celebrate YALI and each of you from across the continent. Can everyone say YALI? That's what I'm talking about. I am Dr. Felicia Wilson Young. I am a USAID Foreign Service Officer currently assigned to South Africa. And in this capacity, I work on all of the education, youth, and young African leader initiatives with my colleagues. And so today I'm excited to be here representing USAID. I believe that choosing to live in alignment with your purpose is key to your success. And it is not by accident that any of you are in this room this morning. You are here because of purpose, and you're here because you had a plan. And we are going to elevate the conversation to recognize that no matter what path you're on, always remember your purpose and have a plan. So no matter what path my career has taken me, I am an educationalist. I am an educator, and in every space, I try to create opportunities for conversations that elevate and that transform. And today we're going to have a conversation about the impact of African higher education and how YALI is a pivotal part of that with our regional learning centers, which you've all had the opportunity to be a part of in some way or the other, and how we're able to use that learning and these African institutions to develop and shape our individual lives, our community, as well as the nations. You being the primary contributors to YALI and the effects that we're able to have across the African continent. So I want you to recognize yourselves and that for nearly 10 years ago, USAID was tasked with setting up the YALI Regional Learning Centers. This was in response to a tremendous outcry and outpouring of interest in the Mandela Washington Fellowships. And at the time, there were about 42,000 applications for 500 positions. So in response to the demand, to the cry, understanding the importance of supporting the development on the African continent, for us, by us. Everybody say for us, by us. Have you heard of the concept of FUBU? And I don't mean sneakers. It's called For Us, By Us. And YALI is a primary instrument that was developed by USAID in response to a call for us to be able to set up centers across the continent and offer leadership training, professional development, networking opportunities, entrepreneurial opportunities, and to be able to respond to the call. And the institutions that responded to this call in a regional context was GEMPA. When you hear your regional RLC, I want you to shout out YALI. I need some energy. I'm feeding off of you all. So, in response to a regional context, there was GEMPA. I can't hear you. YALI, okay, that's what I'm talking about. There was UNISA, Southern Africa. That's what I'm talking about. There was CSAG. Yes, our Francophone institution. And Kenyatta University. YALI, our East African institution who are leading the way and partnering with USAID and collaborating to be able to respond to the challenge. In designing the RLCs, We knew that by including the expertise of multiple stakeholders and multiple sectors, the US government, the private sector, the American and African higher education institutions, we would create a more effective, responsive, market-relevant training programs that could meet the needs of a diverse set of young African leaders. Little did we know that 10 years later, it's almost 10 years, 10 years later, and down the road, we would have more than 30,000 YALI alumni. Yes, that's worth an applause. 30,000 YALI alumni and over 600,000 within the YALI network. It is incredible to witness the regional leadership centers and what they have achieved through your action, through your reaction in such a short period of time. They have made impact and grown far beyond our initial imagination and truly have changed the lives of those of you in the room, and you have impacted so many others. So before we dive into today's discussion, we're going to take a look at the video that talks about what we've learned in this last 10 years. It talks about how we've all been inspired, empowered, and equipped to continue to move closer and more collaboratively with a mission that impacts and shifts the atmosphere on the continent. Let's take a moment to watch the video.
Since 2015, the Young African Leaders Initiative has been empowering the next generation of African leaders. With 4 regional leadership centers, South Africa, East Africa, and West Africa, in Dakar and Accra, the initiative targets young leaders between 18 and 35, offering training in leadership and essential soft skills. The RLC offers courses in business and entrepreneurship, civic leadership, and public policy. With over 8,000 young Africans trained, the YALI alumni are leading in fields like agribusiness, education, climate tech, and the green economy. They're not just creating change, they're collaborating, giving back, and pushing forward. The YALI effect is real. It's the ripple of collaboration, leadership, and impact that echoes across Africa, driven by a new wave of youth, determined to create a sustainable, more prosperous future. Together we are YALI, leaders leading leaders.
Welcome to YALI Regional Leadership Center, East Africa, where young leaders are empowered to drive transformation and impact in their communities. YALI RLC East Africa has trained 57 cohorts, producing an alumni network of over 5,800 vibrant young leaders from East Africa and Central Africa. During the training, participants are immersed into hands-on learning experiences, from team-building exercises and mastering the principles of the 7 habits of high effective people, to applying innovative techniques through design thinking and exploring African culture and heritage with This is Africa. Among our key achievements, the Alumni, Partners and Stakeholders Networking Forum, the successful 2023 Alumni Homecoming and Impact Awards, which gathered around 500 alumni, and outreach activities to strengthen the alumni initiatives. Our alumni continue to shine as change makers, fostering empowerment and transformation that reverberates across the continent. Their contributions, backed by unwavering support of USAID and our partners, demonstrate the power of investing in Africa's next generation of leaders.
Au Centre régional de leadership YALI Dakar, Christelle Ogo a acquis une meilleure maîtrise de la rédaction de projets et est aujourd'hui capable d'aborder avec plus de confiance les partenaires et gagner des contrats. Inspirée et transformée par cette formation unique en leadership, Aïcha du Togo, Abhishek du Burundi et Nar du Sénégal sont engagés à travers la mise en œuvre de projets innovants à apporter des changements positifs dans leur pays. L'engagement et l'enthousiasme des alumni du YALI sont entretenus à travers un programme de post-training axé sur des formations complémentaires, du coaching, du mentorat et de l'incubation. Ce programme d'accompagnement continu offert aux alumni a permis, entre autres, à 45 projets d'être incubés. Aussi, près de 325 000 $ ont été octroyés à des alumni et associations d'alumni pour soutenir l'exécution de différentes initiatives. Après 9 ans de mise en œuvre, le CRL YALI Dakar a formé plus de 6 000 jeunes leaders africains répartis dans 25 pays et près de 600 résidents en milieu rural.
My name is Harry Tomela. I'm the Director and Chief of Party for the YALI Regional Leadership Center Southern Africa. As a center, we have trained over 9,000 young leaders across our catchment area, both for our English and Portuguese programs. Our focus going forward is primarily around alumni support with the aim to impart changes on our curriculum through innovation challenges that equip alumni with skills to enhance and scale their initiatives. And secondly, alumni exhibition events to provide a platform for them to showcase their initiatives to peers and the general public with the aim for them to meet potential partners and collaborators.
Sou uma change maker, uma agente de mudança na comunidade e meu sonho é fazer a diferença e por isso estou aqui no YALI.
É a questão da habilidade de utilização do marketing para poder alcançar um público-alvo melhor direcionado para os meus seguidores.
All right. Look what's been done by you and by all of the leaders that we're about to hear from today. So I'm going to need a little help with this next part. As I introduce your Vice Chancellor, Rector or Director General, from your region, I want you to get up on your feet and represent. I want you to applaud them and to recognize them for their contribution, but more importantly, because it's a collaborative partnership. So without further ado, I'd like to call all of our vice chancellors from the RLCs to come on stage and share about the legacy of the RLCs, share about their various institutions, and share about how this has been a transformative process. Representing West Africa, representing GIMPA, representing UNISA and Southern Africa, representing Dakar for our Francophone speakers from CISA, and representing South Africa and Kenyatta University as well. So our first person we want to welcome to the stage is our Francophone nation's Director General, Ms. Rosalind Waru from CSAG. Let's applaud her. Yes. Excellent. Our next Vice Chancellor, representing East Africa, Professor Washeki Wanjohi from Kenyatta University. Thank you. Representing West Africa, Professor Samuel K. Bonsu, Rector for GIMPA. That's right, West Africa, raise the roof. Excellent. And representing Southern Africa from UNISA University, the largest university on the continent, Professor Puleng Lenkabula. Excellent, thank you. I'm asking the audience We will have part of this presentation in French. So if you're not a French speaker or if you're a Portuguese speaker, please feel free to put on the translation that's currently on your table. Thank you. And let's give a minute for our speakers also to put on their translation device. Okay. Yes. That's what I'm talking about. All right, parfait. All right. Let's get started. Let's get into this conversation. I'd like to welcome you all to the stage. I appreciate you so very much for taking time to be here. We're going to start off with our first question. All right. Let's start off with our first question in reference to what it's like and what it has been like, 3 and 4. This is what happens when you have paper. Apologies, it's there. Okay. Here we go. So the first question is for Professor Waru. What are the major successes and contributions that higher education institutions have made towards YALI's program in the last decade?
Merci beaucoup. Merci à Madame la modératrice et merci à tous les alumni de YALI qui sont ici présents, ainsi qu'à l'USAID et à nous autres institutions d'enseignement supérieur qui soutenons le programme. Pour répondre à votre question, j'essayerai de spécifier 2 éléments importants. Les principaux succès du programme YALI. On ne peut pas nous dissocier en tant qu'enseignement, en tant qu'institution d'enseignement supérieur de ces succès-là. Et c'est pour cette raison, je parlerai d'abord de ces succès qui en réalité constituent, comme on le dit, notre présence dans le dispositif. Et ensuite, je parlerai maintenant de la contribution des institutions hautes d'enseignement supérieur à la construction de ce programme YALI. Parlant des succès, les principaux succès, il n'est pas du tout, à l'étape actuelle, inaperçu pour la plupart d'entre nous que pendant tout ce programme, pendant les 10 dernières années, de façon spécifique les 9 dernières années, puisqu'on a encore 1 an, nous avons pu créer un système de formation très solide et un réseau de formateurs qualifiés qui ont dispensé pendant longtemps et qui continuent de le faire sur des cours sur le leadership axés sur les affaires et l'entrepreneuriat, l'engagement civique et aussi la gestion publique. Autre élément aussi important que nous devons souligner, c'est ici le développement des réseaux d'alumni. C'est ça qui explique notre rencontre d'ici. Ce développement s'est vraiment montré pertinent dans la mesure où nos alumni ont pu créer dans leurs différents pays des associations qui reflètent ce qu'ils ont reçu pendant tout ce programme-là. Et ils arrivent à montrer en quoi ils pouvaient être utiles dans leur communauté. Je parlerai aussi du fait que nous avons mis en place en tant qu'institution d'enseignement supérieur des infrastructures modernes qui permettent en réalité de pouvoir faire l'apprentissage dans de bonnes conditions et qui prend en compte les approches d'inclusion, c'est-à-dire la présence des infrastructures qui permettent l'accès des personnes à mobilité réduite au cours de ces différentes formations. Nous pouvons également aborder dans ce cadre-là, la plupart des sessions de formation que nous avons organisées ont été organisées à la fois en présentiel comme en distanciel. Et ces différentes formations nous ont permis de toucher à la fois des hommes des femmes, des personnes à mobilité réduite et même des personnes ressortissant des zones rurales. Nous avons également mis en place un accompagnement post-formation de nos alumni. Ça, je crois qu'on en a parlé suffisamment depuis hier et qui vraiment a permis d'accompagner des alumni pour la mise en place des projets très innovants qui nous ont présentés hier, on a vu, de part au niveau des 4 CRL. Nous avons également, de ce fait, contribué au financement des initiatives de ces alumni. Ça a été présenté tout à l'heure au niveau de notre vidéo. Notre présence dans le dispositif a permis également de mobiliser des partenaires du secteur privé pour pouvoir accompagner le dispositif, ainsi que des institutions au niveau régional, international, voire même au niveau local, national, pour pouvoir accompagner dans le cadre des formations que nous avons dispensées durant ces différentes formations. L'organisation du sommet des alumni, qui est aussi un élément important. Mais on me dira, de tout cet ensemble de succès que nous avons eu pendant les 9 dernières années, qu'est-ce que nous avons tiré, nous, en tant qu'institution d'enseignement supérieur? Ce qu'on a tiré, c'est que le dispositif de recrutement qui a été mis en place dans les programmes YALI a permis en réalité à nos institutions d'enseignement supérieur d'apprendre de nouvelles approches en matière de recrutement des étudiants dans le dispositif. Nous pouvons aussi dire les différents curricula de formation qui ont été mis en place dans le cadre de ce programme nous ont également aidés, nous ont permis également de pouvoir mettre en place des formations de qualité. Et sans oublier le fait que la maîtrise des procédures de l'USAID a été d'une utilité pendant ce programme-là pour nous en tant qu'institution d'enseignement supérieur, ce qui du coup nous permet aussi de pouvoir construire de nouveaux réseaux de partenariat sans difficulté avec non seulement les Américains et d'autres aussi. Nous pouvons également dire, pour finir, au niveau de ce premier point, que ce succès n'a pas été réel sans la contribution de l'USAID et de d'autres partenaires ici présents ou qui ne sont même pas encore, qui ne sont pas avec nous dans la salle. Mais de ce fait, quelles sont alors les contributions réelles des institutions d'enseignement supérieur dans ce dispositif? Cela m'amène à dire que les institutions d'enseignement supérieur ont joué un rôle décisif dans la construction de la marque YALI. Pourquoi? Parce que, dans un premier temps, le programme YALI était sous forme, on va dire, un concept. Mais ce concept devait être labellisé, devait avoir un contenu, mais ce contenu a été fait grâce à l'appui des institutions d'enseignement supérieur. Et de ce fait, le programme YALI a bénéficié dans un premier temps de l'image institutionnelle, voire l'ancrage institutionnel de nos institutions d'enseignement supérieur pour pouvoir se rendre beaucoup plus visibles, utiles et impacter les communautés ainsi que ceux qui sont directement les bénéficiaires. Nous pouvons également souligner le fait que notre contribution a été une contribution très remarquable dans le dispositif. Sur le plan, en matière de ressources humaines, nos institutions d'enseignement supérieur ont mis en place, pour le compte des programmes YALI, des ressources humaines d'appui sur le plan administratif, le plan financier, sur le plan de contrôle interne, ce qui constitue des expertises très remarquables dont nous disposons, qu'on a mis au profit du programme YALI. Nous pouvons dire sur le plan matériel que nous avons agi en tant qu'institution d'enseignement supérieur en mettant le cadre qu'il faut à la disposition de ce programme-là, cadre au plan infrastructurel, avec tout ce que cela comporte comme salles de cours adaptées, comme des amphithéâtres, comme des bureaux adaptés à la réalisation d'un tel programme. Pour finir, vous me permettez, c'est que quelque part, nous avons également fait un apport important du point de vue financier. Mes collègues le diront. Nous avons pu ici accompagner le programme en mettant à disposition, par exemple, le système de gardiennage qui était financé entièrement par nous en tant qu'institution d'enseignement supérieur, l'eau qui était financée, l'électricité à titre d'exemple qui était financée, même la subvention de l'hébergement des participants aux différentes formations était financé par nous en tant qu'institution d'enseignement supérieur. Donc nous avons contribué à la mobilisation des ressources. Mais ce qui peut être le hic avec toutes les contributions de nos institutions d'enseignement supérieur, c'est le fait qu'on n'a pas l'impression d'être un partenaire à part entière dans le dispositif. Voilà ce que je peux dire. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup. And what I hear you saying is about the contribution of all of the institutions and that it's a collaborative process with the institution leading, investing, managing the curriculum, as well as the development of each of the alumni, as well as the university leadership as well. So we appreciate you. Thank you very much. My next question would be for Professor Wanjohi. What challenges have the higher education institutions faced in implementing YALI programs and initiatives? And what lessons have you learned?
Yeah, thank you very much. Kenyatta University is a public institution, and it is therefore guided by legislations that guide public institutions, including procurement. And so trying to support YALI in the procurement process, that has been a small challenge initially, but we have managed to go around that by having and building into the procurement sufficient lead time. The second challenge is that Kenyatta University, of course, has its mandate and runs on a very clearly defined calendar and almanac. And many times we have had to accommodate YALI activities. And initially that was a challenge, but we have managed to deal with that by establishing a specific purpose vehicle that addresses the needs that we were able to identify. We have put in place a very vibrant governance structure with an advisory board that, that has members that have bought into the agenda of YALI and have been very, very resourceful and committed in supporting the implementation. We also have, within the same structure, established a project steering committee outside of the mainstream of the university, and also the chief of party has a staff, a team that supports the operation of the of the center. And the YALI has very, very strong support from management. That is the top management of the university. That is the University Management Board. Last year, we had a very, very unique challenge when the war in Sudan broke out. We had 9 of the participants from that country. And so they could not go back to their own countries. And so we managed to deal with that by the management approving that we actually continue accommodating the 9 participants until they had alternative places to go to, and we supported them in identifying the places that they could go to as they consulted with their families within their countries and abroad. And I'm happy to report that only 1 participant is yet to find a place. All the other 9, we have released them to go to their respective destinations. Another challenge that we had, because when this program started in 2015, Kenyatta University was just a hosting institution where we provided the YALI office space of over 10,000 square feet. And commencing 2022, we successfully bidded to not only host the program, but also implement or be an implementing partner. So since 2022, we have been the implementing partner. And we had a challenge getting participants from 2 countries, that is Djibouti and Eritrea. And we have been able to deal with that by working with the US missions, working with our government, and also working with partners to help us get participants from those 2 countries. And for the 18 cohorts that we have conducted since we became an implementing partner, we have attracted participants from all the countries, including Djibouti and Eritrea. Another challenge that we had was the issue of diversity and inclusivity. And again, we have worked with partners like UNHCR to actually get to train our participants who are refugees. We also have within Kenyatta University very clearly established structures that support people with disability and support people with other challenges. And we have used those to actually ensure that all our programs and in all our cohorts, we have representations of those special groups and minority groups. So those for now are the challenges that we have experienced, and we have used those challenges as an opportunity for us to see how we can innovatively deal with those challenges and also share those solutions with the other regional leadership centers. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. I think one thing we can take away from what you've shared is the idea that challenges are often a catalyst for innovation. Innovation. And that leads us to Professor Bamsu. To what extent has the YALI program influenced collaboration between institutions and local organizations?
Good afternoon. Oh, it's morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm ahead of myself. You're probably wondering why I'm wearing 2 name tags. I feel in the minority here, so I needed to bring a collaborator with me. So I think of myself as 2 people instead of 1 person, and that's why I have 2 name tags. But thank you very much. GIMPA is it was set up almost precisely for what YALI is supposed to do. They're 63 years old, to build capacity for a young country in the 1960s. We've stuck to that mandate, and so YALI was just a natural partnership for us to be able to continue developing the capacity building mandate that we had and to engage young people to be able to support and help us address the challenges of the continent that we faced. And so YALI has allowed us to become or enhance the hub for collaboration and capacity building that we were set up to be. We have been able to engage a variety of organizations through YALI. The latest one is an organization called Invest Africa. That is also looking at supporting young people with funding and other resources to help them scale up ideas that they may have for purposes of development and community support. One of the key things that representations from the community have allowed us to do, if nothing at all, is to enhance our visibility. And we take that quite seriously. Of course, the easiest version of it is that we have 120 young people join, a few young people at GIMPA, including myself, to be able to talk about issues affecting our community. They hear about who we are, they know what we do. Some have gone back to their home countries and returned to us. We've also been able to engage some of them to support us in their respective countries. You know, YALI West Africa represents just about 9 countries across the sub-region, and our visibility has been enhanced. We've also been able, through that same arrangement, support other institutions and the YALI alumni organizations that they run in the countries. When we started, we used to have versions of YALI being run in Nigeria, for instance. So we were supporting each other, engaging alumni from both institutions. We had a sort of a sister institution in Nigeria helping us. We would go there to work with them. They would come to Ghana to work with us. And we were able to engage alumni to support us in the performance of those targets, achievements, activities that we had. The other part of this relationship is that we bring alumni and their friends to come and help us at GIMPA and at the YALI RLC. So as we have grown over the last 10 years, we've realized that some of the things that we need in terms of expertise, we can find in our alumni. So while they are working in their communities, we may identify certain things that they are doing there that would be useful for us to bring to our activities at GIMPA and for the broader YALI community. And we are able to do that, and we've done that quite successfully. I'd like to think that our institutions are benefiting, but YALI is also benefiting from us in a number of ways. As some of us, you heard some of the conversations here, YALI really relies on us. And we don't take that trust and responsibility lightly. We know that without us, YALI does not exist. And so we would engage as much as we have to, and then make sure that our young people are prepared to help us face the challenges within and even beyond the continent. And we pray that this adventure, as we have started, will continue to facilitate the growth and engagement of our various communities. So through our YALI young people, we have also been able to establish specific relationships with some of our community schools, some of our libraries. The YALI folks have established libraries across the country. I'm able to remain young on a personal level just by engagement with our young people. So if nothing at all, I have a personal benefit. Having been with YALI for the last 10 years or so, I will always look young as I interact with young people. So we have benefited a lot, and thank you very much. We hope to continue to benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Bamsu. What I loved about what you shared is the idea of not just collaboration, but about building an ecosystem through YALI, and recognizing that it's the contribution of the whole, the universities, the institutions, the individuals, the entrepreneurs, the business people, private sector, and that you're building upon that together. And over the 10 years, you've seen that grow. So thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. We recognize that, as you said, without you, we would not exist. Thank you. So Professor Lenkabula, thank you for your patience. The question I have for you is, what does the vision for the future of YALI look like on the continent?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Young, for the question. I want to align with my colleagues who have shared that the trajectory of YALI and its impact on youth and young adults in the continent has been optimum. And I think we have to celebrate that. I think as we look towards the 10th anniversary, that's something that we should acknowledge. The second aspect that I want to reaffirm is that I come from the University of South Africa, the oldest university in the world, not just in Africa, to have taught via distance education. None before UNISA, not open university, not Indira Gandhi, not free university, taught via distance. And therefore, this is an asset that we bequeath to the global arena that only became relevant in the post-COVID-19. And I think this is quite important to share. During COVID-19, when most universities were closed, in the hard lockdown, UNISA was operating fully because it had used the digital systems as important avenues for creating access. So the vision of YALI seems to be entwined with this idea of a long-range vision of working on the future. According to graduates of YALI, YALI has optimized their opportunities at a personal level, the knowledge they've garnered for themselves, and the ability to participate as agents of change in their own institutions, society, in the public, private, and civic society sector. So it means to me that as leaders of institution, the YALI graduates have penned out the vision for us, and we concur. The second aspect is that they affirm that YALI experience is enriching, transformative, allows them to encounter multiplicities of experiences and to learn to harness their own agency through knowledge. And I think this is a vision that we must continue into the future. The third aspect is that they claim leadership for themselves. They recognize their agency, not only as leaders of the future, but leaders of the present. And I think the values that YALI into the future and the role for impact is going to be quite important, especially for the future. What does this mean? It means the imagination of YALI LL, the legacy and localization, must always be entwined with the universities that have always cradled YALI, so that the lessons of the past, of the present, can entwine to propel the future of YALI. And that's something that I see needing an urgent attention if we are to strengthen the global impact of YALI. Given the core mandate of the universities of teaching, learning, research, engaged scholarship, innovation, and scaling, especially in the context of Africa, the idea of entrepreneurship, I've found that the mandate of YALI has enabled us to envision even more strengthening of the entrepreneurship impact, the global advocacy impact on those aspects that create a chasm amongst people, amongst communities, but also in the global arena. So it is my hope that we are going to build a globally impactful, sustainable, and futures-oriented YALI that is looking into addressing some of the challenges, the grand challenges of our times, because YALI leaders must be at the center of reimagining the solutions to war, to violence, to gender-based violence, but also to issues of ecological and climatic changes, which may wane the processes and the opportunities that youth and young adults in the continent, but all over the world, require to winning the future. Finally, I believe that the context of YALI, the partnerships, the knowledge arena intersecting with business, the public sector, and the civic society sector is a model that must be propelled because it allows impact in the varied arenas and sectors that students of YALI, graduates of YALI, but also even those who have gained opportunities from YALI have demonstrated are important for propulsion into the future. So how do we set ourselves into this future? It is through partnerships that are constructive and that are symmetrical, not asymmetrical. It is optimizing the dividends of the youth in the continent as we do in the global arena so that African youth, American youth can learn from and with each other and optimize the opportunities that both the geospatial experiences and lessons would garner for them. It also means being attentive to investments that YALI, USAID, institutions such as UNISA. For instance, we would have contributed $2 million into the YALI program as a university. How then do we harness the various assets that are available in our context to propelling this important vision? And it is my contribution that we will be sustainable, globally impactful, attentive to the conditions and grand challenges of our times, and be at the center of the solutions and the imagination of a cohesive future. So thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So at this part of our program, we're going to have the opportunity to hear from those who are in the audience. Yesterday, information was sent out and you had an opportunity to submit some of your questions. And so we'd like to share some of those questions with you now and hear from our panelists exactly what their views and their ideas are. I'm going to transition again. Excellent, thank you. So, for listening to what you've said this morning, we recognize that there's a cross-culmination of opportunities for the institutions that are represented here, for USAID, as well as for other partners that are with us. And one of the questions that came from our audience, may I have the questions on the screen, please? Thank you. How are the RLCs strategically leveraging partnerships with African governments, the private sector, and international organizations to enhance both the sustainability and scalability of YALI's impact in Africa? And these questions are open to any of our panelists who want to respond. Earlier today, we had a conversation about scalability and sustainability. Please share more. One moment. Can we hear sound?
Oui, merci beaucoup. J'ai bien envie de répondre à cette question. D'abord, moi je viens du CESAG, le Centre africain d'études supérieures en gestion, qui est une création des chefs d'État de 8 pays en 1978. Ce qui déjà confère au CESAG un caractère déjà institutionnel avec un accord de siège au niveau du Sénégal. Nous sommes placés sous la tutelle de la Banque centrale des États de l'Afrique de l'Ouest, ce qui nous donne déjà une image institutionnelle capable de booster le programme YALI du point de vue discussion avec les gouvernements pour plus d'impact en termes de formation. Donc, ces éléments, avec l'appui de l'État sénégalais qui nous abrite, qui a accordé l'accord de siège, constituent aussi un atout au niveau de 8 pays, les 8 pays qui ont créé déjà le CESAG. Et à partir de ces 8 pays, on peut utiliser leur leadership pour mieux discuter avec les gouvernements des autres pays au niveau de notre espace. Puisque le YALI, au niveau de Dakar, couvre 25 pays africains, dont les pays lusophones et aussi les pays, disons un pays hispanophone. Donc, on a déjà cet atout pour pouvoir mieux discuter, mieux impacter. Et je pense que les jours à venir, avec l'appui de l'USAID, nous allons nous mettre dans une autre démarche qui va nous permettre de pouvoir mieux impliquer les gouvernements à travers, par exemple, le programme de la gestion publique, qui est un programme qui peut aider les administrations publiques à améliorer leur capacité à pouvoir prendre en charge l'aspect gestion démocratique de nos États, l'aspect également gestion axée sur les résultats. Voilà.
Merci beaucoup, vraiment. Yes, oui. Our second question from our audience, please place the questions on the screen, please. Thank you. As YALI transitions forward, greater localization, how are the RLCs aligning their curricular, leadership frameworks, and program objectives to the evolving political, economic, and cultural landscapes in Africa? Any of our panelists want to respond? Yes, Professor Bonsu.
If I may, please. The sustainability of YALI depends on localizing content. Africa is diverse, and here I think I'm quoting one philosopher who uses that term, that even within countries, there are significant enough differences to suggest the need to appeal to each of them differently. That is not to say that there are no universals. You know, there are some basic things that is just human, and that is like, there is no doubt about those things. But when it comes to sustaining training programs, especially when you are looking to embed certain cultural, philosophical, ideological, standards, so to speak, it is necessary to localize. And that is part of where I think our institutions come in. You know, we are in the business of developing and adapting to changing environments around us for purposes of capacity building, preparing people, not just young people, but a cross-section of people, to be able to deal with the future. And so one of the things that have to be done is to mobilize local expertise. Now, we have trained, 30,000 people? We would like to think that there are some of them who are capable of translating their cultural experiences into leadership strategies that will facilitate what we hope to achieve on the continent. And again, that is where the expertise of our institutions would come in to provide the necessary tools and backgrounds that will help the RLCs translate the ideas that we have into reality. I know that in Ghana and in other RLCs, we need to engage. We have and will need to continually engage more local people. I've mentioned to some of you earlier that the American framework is excellent. It works perfectly for America. There is the need for us to start making adaptations for purposes of localization and for local effectiveness. Because we cannot, in all honesty, we cannot all become Americans, either by culture or by whatever means. There are some unique aspects of Africa that are worth emulating by the world. There are many examples of successful African traits, successful African cultural things that are useful and needed by the world. And part of our job is to share those good things with the rest of the world. YALI is a perfect vehicle for that kind of knowledge transfer from Africa to the rest of the world. Yes. Localization is one of the most effective ways of doing that. So while we are adapting or adopting ideas from different parts of the world, America and other places, we also have to be conscious of the fact that if we sustain only the American portion of the YALI program, there will be no YALI a generation down the road. So the adaptation that we are talking about, mobilizing local expertise, tapping the African expertise that we have within this room, within the broader YALI fraternity, is going to be the most effective avenue, I believe, for us to be able to sustain this and localize the program more effectively. And some of the programs are going to work effectively if they are located in the relevant cultures. If we detach the culture, and then some of us are very sensitive, and here perhaps I'm speaking for myself, but some of us are very sensitive to the loss of culture, right? Because African identity is defined by our culture, by our languages, by who we are as Africans. We cannot lose sight of that fact. If we lose sight of the Africanness that defines us, there is no Africa. All this effort that we are putting into empowering the youth will become a waste of resources. So I believe that the necessity to localize the content, merging it with the best that we can find from America and the rest of the world, is the best way to go. And as HEIs, the higher education institutes, that is the backbone, or that are the backbone of the YALI enterprise. I believe that the steps that we are taking now, several of our RLCs have taken now, to start looking at the content. And indeed, we have been using this content for 10 years. The world around us has not stayed static over the 10 years. There is the need for us now to look at how we would locally respond to some of the challenges that have emerged, and that will be able to support our young people in changing Africa into the Africa that we all want. So some steps are being taken, and I believe that there is the need for intensifying the localization that we seek for the YALI program on the continent. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Bonsu. I think so much was said there, and it's so rich for us to be mindful about the value of our diverse cultures and languages and experiences, and how that helps YALI to grow for Africa's future. I believe that what you just mentioned is like YALI's superpower, right? The importance of having that uniqueness based on the institutions we're coming from, but at the same time, having that cross-regional experience that we can come together and collaborate. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think we have time for one last question. May we have that question on the screen, please? Thank you. How do the RLCs plan to support alumni in their post-program development and initiatives, particularly in areas related to sustainability and impact? This issue of sustainability keeps coming up, so I hope we're listening. Yes. If we have a response, yes, Professor. Mics, thank you.
Thank you, my brother.
Yes.
I think I'll speak on how the RLC East Africa supports our alumni after their training. One of the things that we have done since we became an implementing partner nearly 2.5 years ago, we have worked at strengthening the alumni chapters in each of the 14 countries. And as we speak now, the alumni chapters in each of those 14 countries are active and running. And we involve them in nearly all our activities because we believe in partnering with them in terms of sustainability of the program and also in terms of scalability. Number two, we have implemented what we call the Transformation Fund. And since we became an implementing partner, we have supported 64 alumni groups involving 88 alumni. And this Transformation Fund supports the alumni in implementing initiatives and activities that have greatest impact. It is a grant that you just don't receive. You have to apply for it and go through a very rigorous competitive selection. The other thing that we have done to support our alumni after their training is to conduct what we call training of trainers, so that they can be able to categorize and downscale that which they have received so that it has a replication effect. And that we have done so very effectively. So far we have conducted 2 training of trainers workshop, and we have found that to be very, very effective. And continuous capacity building for the alumni, and also mentoring programs. There are those who are at different stages, and they are able to support those who are coming up. And recently, we have developed a strategic and vision plan. It's just about to be completed. It was presented to the board 2 weeks ago. That is being finalized. And also, we have identified a very unique need, that there are some alumni or groups that have very, very unique ideas and initiatives that are likely to have very great impact. So discussions are on to have a startup fund, and from that startup fund we can draw what we call pre-seeding stage funding to support those alumni to establish their operations of their own, those companies, before they can actually qualify for other funds. And those are the few initiatives that we have put in place and we are putting in place to support the alumni post their training. And of course, we do all this with the support of our partners at different levels, and we really do this because we strongly believe that our alumni are going to play a key role as change agents, and that is aligned with our theory of change. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. I think we've had an opportunity to hear from our various representatives and vice chancellors of the universities. We've had listening to exactly what the impact has been, the commitment, what the commitment has been, the opportunity for leveraging those experiences. And I'm going to come back to Dr. Puleng to also share and take us out on our last point in reference to sustainability, commitment, leverage, or any words that she'd like to share. Yes, thank you, Dr. Puleng.
Thank you very much, Dr. Young. I just wanted to say that it is a well-known fact that South Africa has the highest coefficiency in the world. The YALI program is based in our business school. One of the critical areas that we have tried to do is to optimize enterprise support that also leverages the opportunities for overcoming and eradicating poverty. The second aspect is really to developing an economic development framework that is attentive to the regional challenges, and therefore, especially if we want to win the future, the digitization system has been quite central. How do we anchor youth and young adults to understand and to optimize the digital systems? And one of our alumni is actually a partner to Microsoft as part of that enterprise development, Reneilwe Matsepe. That's just an example. And the final point is that precisely business has to be anchored to thrive and to address the contextual challenges. But we also have agents and partners and advocates for governance systems that enable business that is attentive to sustainability, to youthful dividends, but also to ethical leadership, where the best of opportunities from public sector, private sector, and university systems are harnessed. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Professor Puleng. Yes. In listening to everything that's been shared this morning, I think it's important for us to remember what are the highlights of this conversation, of this exchange. And what is it reflecting? It's reflecting the U.S. government's continued commitment. It's reflecting the higher education institutions, the important, as you mentioned, for leveraging our resources. And this is not just physical resources, but it's also leveraging our intelligence, our economic resources, our research, recognizing and optimizing the levels of support that come directly from you as the alumni and also from the institutions. But I would be remiss if I did not take the opportunity to also mention the regional learning centers. So for those who are part of our regional learning centers, our chief of parties, our academic staff, could you please stand? Because I want to recognize you as well. As I mentioned, this is a collaborative opportunity. Let's recognize them and recognize the importance of their innovation and the ingenious way that our chief of parties invest and collaborate with our institutions. And at the same time, thank you very much, and collaborate with our institutions, you may be seated, and ensure that you have what you need so that you have the tools as YALI alum and as participants to be able to advocate and put yourselves in a position that's transformative in best practices. So what we've heard here today is about self-empowerment, is about economic development, is about making sure that voices are heard and seen. Not only is it FUBU, for us, by us, but it's also nothing for us without us. That's what I've heard. And I've heard that that is done through a systematic way of building an ecosystem. So we want to thank you, each of you representing your universities, from Kenyatta University, from CISAG, from UNISA, as well as from GIMBA. Thank you for your courage, your strength, your brilliance, and the opportunity to really be truly partners with USAID and our efforts to continue to expand YALI and to grow in the next 10 years. Thank you very much, and we appreciate you. Everybody, yes. Before you leave the stage, Kevin's going to come back on. But as you've seen, we have a tradition here. It's called the selfie. So let's get that picture. So what we do is we turn around. Come on, you guys, you gotta stand up.
Come on, let's give her some energy. She pushes that up for us. All right there, thank you.
Okay, are we ready?
You want some help?
Yes, you can't see all of us, Kevin.
Let me help you. All right. So there it is. Some 3, 2, 1. Some cheese. Some energy. All right, let's give her some one video. All right, so 3, 2, 1. Prof Sheke, some 2 fingers in the sky, leads. All right, there you go. All right, let's do it for them. Okay, great. All right, thank you. All right, so they're asking for the music. Since they're the deans and props, let's give them some music and see what they have. DJ Gift, they want someone to music. Let's give it to them. All right, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, most welcome. Thank you for that. We are heading to a break. It's a break that will take us probably for about 15 or 10, 15 to 10 minutes. We're going to transition you with some music, so if you want to just stay behind to feel a cue of what DJ Gift has in store, feel free. Also for you participants, this stage is yours, so feel comfortable as you can to just come in for some quick music, pictures and all, get to enjoy. Also to just make you aware, the marketplace camps later after our break, and also for the marketplace exhibitors, the 50 of you, this is a place that we're going to be exhibiting. Also for just you, the audience in lunch, for lunch, there's the kosher meal for anyone who will love that. Check it out during lunch. And I bet we've showed up what's coming in next after break, so just keep an eye onto that. It will transition on screen in terms of what we have in coming next after the break. So that was a great show by Dr. Felicia Wilson, which takes us into tea break. Enjoy yourself, and DJ Gift. Please pull us some 1, 2, 3 songs as we get into a short commercial break. Thank you for being a lovely audience, and as much as I'm seeing you tired, I still love you the way you are. So see you up in a few. Bye-bye. How are you? I'm fine, thank you. Feel free. Feel free. Yeah. I'm fine, thank you. I'm very well.